Thank you for tuning in to Serendipity with Sheila, the podcast that helps you align your mission with your passion. As a universal master energy healer, Sheila can help you awaken and align with your true self so you can live the purposeful life you were made for. Let's get started.
Okay, hello everybody. Hello, welcome to Serendipity with Sheila, and I am your host, Reverend Sheila B. Tillich. And today you have a real treat because I am going to be welcoming my dear friend, Dr. John Ryan, who is like a brother to me. Dr. Ryan is actually a doctor from Ottawa, Canada, and it is my honor to welcome him here with Serendipity with Sheila. Hello, John.
Hi, Sheila. Thanks for inviting me. It's a delight to be here. And hi to everybody out there in video land.
Exactly. So I'm going to give a real small little bio here. Dr. John Ryan, MD, is a board-certified physician, assistant professor, energy healer, speaker, workshop facilitator, and visionary, and the actual author of Unity Field Healing Volume 1. And he's also the founder of Unity Field Healing, all right, accessing your quantum DNA. Today, he is going to tell us who he is, how our paths cross, and how his unique healing practices are actually aligned with the ascension. John, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right. So tell me a little bit more about yourself. All right. Sure. And so that people tell my audience about you and things that they already don't know.
And that they don't know. Okay, good.
Yeah.
We'll open some doors.
I've never heard of it, so I kind of don't understand it, but I like them to hear it from you.
Sure thing. Yeah. So I'll start with basics for people who are brand new to me or to the work. So as you mentioned, Sheila, I'm a physician. My background is in traditional medicine. But going back many, many years, I've had a strong interest in alternative aspects of healing, particularly energy and consciousness-based healing. And a lot of that for me stems back to some experiences I had as a young man when I was just finishing medical school back in the 80s. And so I started to have a series of experiences where they were all kind of related, but unique and distinct at the same time. So for example, I'd go to bed at night and my body would start vibrating with energy and I'd have a conscious out-of-body experience. And I'd be in the room and I could move around the room and see my physical body. And I became aware of that through that process of how our consciousness it's combined with our body, but it also exists independent of our body. So it really made me start to look at life in a more spiritual kind of way. I realized we're souls in bodies, not bodies with consciousness. We're actually souls living in the bodies. And the body is more a vehicle through which we have these experiences. And then I also started having some peculiar experiences where I'd be looking at someone and all of a sudden their aura, their energy field around them would start to kind of take shape. And I'd see the colors around their body and their various aspects of energy. Or sometimes in nature, I would have experiences where I would see this field of energy that was like a web of light kind of holding the whole physical structure of the world together. And so all of these things, as they were starting to happen, I had no frame of reference for what I was living, of course, because I had grown up in a very traditional kind of a family and gone through a very traditional kind of education. I didn't have any exposure to Eastern systems of thought or spirituality, and certainly not to energy medicine and these kinds of things. So, but as I was living these things, I had to integrate them in some way. And speaking of serendipity, I woke up one morning and I had this really profound intuition. It was one of those intuitive experiences where it kind of haunts you, like it's so strong you can't let it go.
I've been there, done that.
And what happened was I had this desire, I guess, this premonition, or that I needed to go to this bookstore in town, and it was a place I had never been. It's a holistic kind of a bookstore, and I kind of poo-pooed it off, and then it just kept, holding on. So by noon that day, I was in my car and I thought, well, I'm going to go and see what this is all about. So I went to this bookstore and I walked in, and it was like an old house, kind of like a mansion scale of a house, but all the rooms had different kinds of books. There were crystal books and Eastern spirituality books and UFO books, and all the kinds of things you might find in a holistic center. And as I went, I felt overwhelmed. I kind of thought, like, what am I doing here? Like, how am I supposed to find something meaningful in all of this? And all of a sudden, as my eyes panned over the room, there was a book that magnified on the bookshelf. Like today, when you run your mouse over a cursor on your laptop and it gets big when the mouse is on top of it, the book kind of expanded like that in front of my eyes. So I went over and looked at the book, and it was called The Spontaneous Awakening of Kundalini by Gopi Krishna. And so I started reading the flip cover of the book, and it was talking about experiences that this gentleman, Gopi Krishna, had lived as his Kundalini energy was awakening. And I didn't know what Kundalini was or any of that stuff. So I'm reading it, but I thought, this is kind of what's happening to me. And I realized, like now in retrospect, the experience I've described at different times in interviews, but as I look back at the experience, I realized it was Spirit's way of bringing me very precise knowledge that I needed at a point in time that I had no contextual frame of reference to know how to find. So I wouldn't have known to go to a bookstore and say, oh, I think I'm having a Kundalini awakening. Can you help me? Spirit led me to the book, and it made sure I found the book through the perceptual experience that I had with it. And I thought I was done. And as I was ready to, go to the cache and get my book, there was another book that started to glow in light. And I went over and looked at that book. I thought, this is strange. I have to get out of this place. It's kind of weird.
Well, you're in the metaphysical story, We have to laugh about that. How we used to, oh my gosh, we can't go in that type of store. But
exactly,
that's
right?
Serendipity allowed us to. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I've never done
exactly.
that.
And the other book that I took off the shelf was the volume one book by Lee Carroll in Cryon. It was called The End Times. And Lee had just started publicly doing channeling work, and it was his very first publication of the Cryon material. And so I looked at that, and I really resonated with the message in this, because as I was living these experiences, I always knew, even as a young boy, that this was a strange time on the earth. I knew that something was happening on the earth, and I kind of knew there were two destinies for the earth, and it wasn't quite decided at that point in time which way we were going to go. And I had an experience as a little boy where I was asked a question once, like, what do you think the future will be, John?
Ah,
And this energy came over me. Even I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I felt this really strong energy kind of take over my body. And I stood up really strong, like I was the emperor. And I said, there are two possible futures for this planet. And if I'm alive in 1998, I know we have chosen the good one. And that was all I had to say. And so, but I pointed out because we know in our souls that this is a special time on the earth. That's why I illustrate the point. Even when we were born, we had this knowledge, even though we may not be conscious of it at all times. There's something in us that knew that something special was happening on the earth at this time. And so that was kind of my real doorway into spirituality and energy and consciousness. And that just triggered one series after another of events in my life where I was exposed to different things. I had different meditative experiences, different healing experiences, energy healing experiences, etc. I really followed the Cryon material very closely through the years. I hosted Lee Carroll in Ottawa many times when he was traveling and doing weekend events around the world. And so the work of Cryon is woven into the fabric of who I am. Like, it's really something that's very dear and near in my heart, and I know it is in yours as well. And so that became a bit of a guiding force as well. And then what happened for me, Sheila, was I started to have inner teachings. I started to have meditative experiences that I was being shown energy visuals that were kind of like encodements of thought. They would be a snap picture or a little moving picture, but embedded within the vision, there would be elements of information that was so precise and tailored to help me remember certain things. And a lot of it had to do with the quantum DNA aspect of our human energy system, which is really a spiritual aspect of our energy system. And it began to teach me how this lines up with the DNA system and how the ascension process is activating the awakening of this. And there are things that we can do within our own experience to help catalyze the process, to work in unity with the process, and to undergo the ascension transformation in a much more conscious way. And so, without going into all the details, that's kind of a summary of how that unfolded. And it was those visions that really led to the development of unity field healing.
Exactly.
Are you ready to expand your healing? Visit sheilatillich.com/events to find an online or in-person event near you. That's sheilatillich.com/events. Now back to the episode.
I love it. I love the history part. And I love how Spirit has all led us to do this work together. I really do. So I'd like to hear your perspective on how we met and how we've evolved together since the Star Mother's activation in Ottawa. Your presentation in February of 2020. What's your perspective on that? It just blows my mind. For my viewers out there, John and I met in August of 19 while he was hosting one of the Cryon events. And I have been part of the Cryon team also and had been at many of his events working there, but I had never met John Ryan yet. And in August of 19, I was able to do that. And the rest is history on that one. But what is your perspective as far as doing this work, especially with the DNA and the awakening of our ascension?
Absolutely, yeah. So I was one of the presenters at this Cryon event. I was a host in Ottawa, but I was also a presenter. And the presentation, the work that I was presenting was really the foundational work of unity field healing. So by this point in time, I had received visions through the years, which finally coalesced into understanding a format to put energy work in a modality, which is called unity field healing, that can be done in sessions for people. And so the presentation was really the background knowledge and all of the visuals that were part of the teachings that I got in order to formulate and develop the modality in the form that it exists today. And so at the end of the presentation, there was a meditation that was done. It was an extremely powerful event. I've heard from all kinds of people in different ways about the catalytic transformations that took place in that meditative moment. Because Spirit,
you and I both. It was
absolutely, yeah. And so, but it was also a very special event in bringing new information as well, because it was at this event, the theme of the Cryon channelings in this weekend was about working with the unseen. That was kind of the overall theme of all 4 channels that were given through Saturday and Sunday. And in one of the messages, Cryon presented to me the knowledge that this work is a remembering of the energy that was understood and utilized in the Temple of Rejuvenation in Lemuria. And he said that basically what you're remembering is kind of like reading the textbooks of those days. You're remembering the knowledge and the energy that was utilized in different ways within the Temple of Rejuvenation. And he gave me my name as an entity at that time, which is Eli E, and explained to me that.
John, can I just say that was in August of 2019 when he gave you the name, right? And during that event when you hosted it.
Yes, it was.
In Ottawa.
Yeah, that's right. And so it was a pivotal moment for me, obviously, in my work and in everybody involved in that experience, because it was really the time when that information was kind of anchored, if you will, or it was delivered in a revelatory kind of a way. It was revealed to be the way it was. And so it was a profound moment for all of us. And the energy throughout that entire weekend was so profound. And part of it is I had also done an event in Hawaii in 2019 when this was an event with Lee and with other members of the Cryon team. And it was called Return to Lemuria. And it was all about the awakening of the Lemurian Akash. And in that event, it was the way that that started was I had a visitation from an energy which I recognized was my Pleiadian star mother. But I actually didn't know the information that Cryon gave me, which came later. So I had this visitation and this experience, and the presence, the energy of my Lemurian mother blew an energy over my body. And as this happened, I had this awareness that I needed to create this event in Hawaii. And so that was the catalyst for starting that. And what happened was in that event, it was the time when what we were told is there's an Akash in all of the Lemurian healers that's ready to awaken. And this was a call for people to come and participate in the event as part of that global catalysis. So it was kind of like happening there, but not limited to people who were there. It was like a group of people getting together to serve as the anchor point for this awakening. And so there were all kinds of beautiful things that happened in that event, including the early teachings of the Lemurian teaching wheel that Cryon gave through Lee Carroll in that event. And so it all kind of ties together. And then in Ottawa, he gave this presentation. That was when we really met. And so you were a profound part of that weekend, Sheila. And that's really, I remember the weekend with such fondness in my heart. And getting to know you, of course, is always, you know how I love you. So it's all special.
Yeah, I know. My brother, my soul brother. Yep. So that presentation with the DNA and what he brought through with your role as being Eli E. And I was already involved in DNA work myself in another modality that I do. But that's when I found out about your own Unity Field Healing Practitioners training. And you had one spot left in November of that year. And I actually had my own master classes that weekend, but I switched everything around because I knew that I was supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And I knew that it was part of my purpose in the work that I was doing. So I'm very grateful that you were able to, and I think that was the next to the last in-person class that you taught before COVID too.
It would be, going back to then,
Right,
probably be the last class. Yeah. They've all been done online since then. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So go ahead and continue. So that was the end of 2019. So then we
Yeah.
get into 2020.
So as the work evolved, what happened was later in that year, I was at another event and I had actually I get the timing mixed up a little bit. 2019, 2020. I was in a meditation in a Cryon event in Montreal. And in this event, I had a group of light beings come to me in one of these vision experiences that I'm sometimes given. And it came as a ball of light, and they introduced themselves as the Syrian Blue-White Collective. And as they did that, this ball of light kind of fanned open, and I could see an array of beings that were one light consciousness. It's like they were all together as a light form, but they represented many beings at the same time. And they said they are the Syrian Blue-White Collective, and they explained that they are kind of like star brothers and sisters. They're part of the family of light, the galactic family of light. They're intimately connected to the earth. They've been present through various aspects of the cyclic history on the earth, sometimes more in form and other times more in consciousness through channeling, particularly in Lemuria and in ancient Egypt, the Egypt kind of pre-dynastic Egypt, where the temples really come from and all that kind of stuff. And so they explain that they are coming at this time because of the ascension process that's taking place. And they have help that they can give to human beings who are undergoing their ascension journey. And so they wanted me to begin, in addition to the Unity field healing work, a series of monthly transmissions called the Syrian Blue-White Transmissions. And they're given on usually the third Thursday of the month online. And the reason for these transmissions is to provide a quantum cohesion so people can work together through the meditations. And they come to be present in these transmissions and they participate with us. And so we're starting our fourth year of the transmissions tomorrow night. It's the first of the fourth year. And so the first 3 years have been extremely profound, as you know. There have been all kinds of incredible transformations that people are experiencing through working with the energy of that. And one of the transmissions, the I was shown a vision that's intimately connected to the unity field healing work, but also to the star mothers. The mothers came in this meditation and they presented themselves kind of showing the process of how the quantum DNA was originated that formed the structure that is the quantum DNA of our soul experience as a fractal energy that was created through sound and song by the mothers as they sang prior to humanity coming to the earth to begin the Lemurian experience. And so that was one aspect of the transmissions, and it ties into understanding the quantum DNA system and the template that we work with in the unity field system, which I see right behind you on your wall.
Yes, it is. It's so much part of my work. Yep.
And that's how they kind of tied it all together. So you can kind of see it's a family. It's like a collection of beings, a lot of souls, a lot of historical experience that goes way, way back to the very early times on the earth. And they explain that at the time, the DNA was integrated and souls came into form for the first time carrying the 24th chromosome, or the energy of what we would call the 24th chromosome. And this is a quantum energy structure. It's part of the energy field around us. And so as we go through the ascension, the energy that connects us physically to the quantum energy of this system is being recalibrated and activated in different ways. And it's quite a process. It's not, I mean, it's a simple thing to say, but it's a process to live. It's not something that happens overnight or in a day. It happens through a journey. And so they're there to help us on the journey, to catalyze moments in time, to help each one of us continue to move forward with the integration of the energy and all that it means to embody this new human principle that we talk about in the ascension.
Exactly. I just love the work. And when they came to you, that event that you had, that was in February of 2020. That was an in-person event, and that was the one that I came up and you asked me to do the opening prayer from the Star Mothers, and
Right.
that was transformational in my own journey, because as soon as I walked into there, and we talked about it afterwards, is that the energy was so profound that I knew something was happening to me. And what was profound is that everything that you channeled from the Star Mothers that night was what they had already communicated to me.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, it was like, oh my god, it blew my mind. But also, they communicated to me that from then on, I was going to openly channel them,
Okay.
and that they had been channeling through me for a long time,
Okay.
but I wasn't aware of it as far as the names. I mean, I knew, all the archangels and the angels and my spirit guides and Saint Germain and Kuan and all the other ones that came, but they said, no, they're the ones that have really been there, and for me to step forward in my own power,
Okay.
and I am just so grateful, because since then I have stood in my power. And as Unity Field has advanced, I have advanced so much, and the Star Mothers have really stepped forward in my own life, in my own practice, and also the people that I help in my purpose. So I'm just so grateful for you and all your work that you do. And you did share about Unity Field Healing, about opening and recalibrating that DNA to where we are now. Which is exactly what this ascension is all about. And it's exactly what the Star Mothers have me communicate over and over and over again. The same thing. They said you do an activation where you activate the 24th chromosome, the multidimensional, and always bring that forward over and over again. And I say, yeah, but I want to talk about something else. And they said, no, this is what you're going to do. And I said, okay. So I led, but I'm very excited because you're going to come to the U.S.
Yes, I
Finally.
am. Finally.
Finally, yeah. So it was your first appearance teaching in the U.S., and I'm very, very grateful. And I'm very grateful that I was actually the second practitioner in the U.S. that you've trained,
Mm,
which is just blows my mind, and how far we have gone with this, being able to do it online since COVID,
yeah.
you know. And we originally was going to have the first training here in Rochester, New York, in May of 2020, and we've had to postpone it. This is actually the fourth date. So we are actually, everybody, going to have Unity Field Healing in-person training in Rochester, New York in 2023. It's going to be April 21st through the 23rd, and John will be here in person.
Yay.
Finally. So I'm so excited.
Monthly group healing sessions are now available on sheilatillich.com/events. These group healing sessions take place on the first Tuesday of every month and include guided group healing and/or exercises depending on the need of the group. Because this is a more intimate group, it is developed based on the needs of the group during the session. This is to support us as we move through this ascension process and we are experiencing similar things at the same time. To register for the next monthly group healing sessions, please visit our event page, sheilatillich.com/events. Thank you for listening. Now back to the episode.
So John, can you tell people how can they sign up for this besides my website, but give a little bit more information as far as your website and where they go
Sure,
to
yeah.
actually sign up?
So all of the work I do with Unity Field Healing, the Syrians, the transmissions, the healing work, everything is all on one website, and it's called unityfieldhealing.com. And so all together, one word, unityfieldhealing.com. At the top, there's a bar. So there's sections within the website. There's a section on learning about Unity Field Healing. There's a section where I list all the practitioners who are available to do in-person and remote sessions as practitioners. There's a section on the Syrians and the Syrian transmissions. And then there's a little store where there's products related to Unity Field Healing and also an events tab. So for events specifically, the events tab is the best place to go. And there'll be events, people can register there for transmission events, for practitioner training events, all these types of things. The transmissions are at the top and the practitioner trainings are at the bottom of the same page. So you just scroll down or you can click a button at the top that'll take you to the bottom of the page. And you'll see the Rochester event listed there, and people can click on the button there and it'll take them right to the registration page for the event. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So John, what would you like to share the last thoughts with my actual audience before we close?
So I always love this question because it's so spontaneous and it's always a channeled kind of an answer.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to group for a minute.
Wonderful.
It's funny. I'm being shown like a billboard on the street. And on one side it says serendipity, and on the other side it says synchronicity. And
Yes. I didn't know which one I was going to use for my podcast, but they said no, serendipity, because it led you to the synchronicity.
There you go.
I love
tuned in.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt there.
No, that's brilliant. And I think the message of serendipity, the message of synchronicity, it's the same in essence, because
Yes.
when I contemplate the words, what they really mean to me are understanding our presence within a system that's so much bigger than who we are as an individual person. And serendipity and synchronicity occur because we're part of an energy system. We're part of a family. We're part of a spiritual system, a galactic system of light and information. And things coordinate in invisible ways in our lives when the time is right for us to have certain knowledge, certain experiences, certain revelations, certain teachings. And there's so much happening right now on the planet. It's a challenging time. We won't go into that too much for all kinds of reasons, as people know. But at the same time, there's an incredible awakening that's taking place and an integration of light and information that's new on the planet. And so we can focus our energy in different ways. But the moment we align ourselves with that becoming, the newness of what's coming towards us in the future, it's like we make an energetic link to the future. And it
Yes.
helps us walk through this moment in time. It helps us stay in presence through this moment in time and bring to us the experiences that will keep us aligned and guided on that path and integration. And so, people listening, for example, there's a reason you're here. If we're having this conversation and you're part of it, it's by design. There's no mistake in that. So, there's something in the message for you. It's always the way it works. And so, just like when I found the book in my life, when I wouldn't know where to go to find information I was seeking, something happened and it brought me to the information that I was seeking. So I have a hunch that people who are tuning into us chatting about this right now are experiencing that too. There's a reason they're listening. There's something for them to discover or explore. And so the serendipity and the synchronicity is for everyone. And Spirit loves us in the way that we're all, each and every one of us is brought to those experiences to help guide us on our path. So I invite people to be much more conscious of that and understand how that system works, and to really flourish and benefit from the synchronicity and the serendipity that Spirit is bringing. And so that would be my message for today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
And what I say, it's about the right time and the divine time.
brilliant.
Spirit knows. Spirit knows. And our
Exactly.
soul knows. And this is the awakening time.
Exactly.
John, thank you so much for coming and being my guest on Serendipity with Sheila. And
My
I am
pleasure,
so
Sheila.
very, very grateful for you, dear brother. And I
And
can't
we're-
wait to give you a nice heart hug in person.
Yes, 6 months.
I know. All right.
All right.
Thank you, dear brother. Thank you.
Blessings, and everybody who's listening as well. Thanks, Sheila.
Are you looking for tools, jewelry, meditations, and merch to remind you to stay in tune and in the present? Make sure you stop by sheilatillich.com/store, and while you're there, visit sheilatillich.com/subscribe to get a discount code for a free meditation from the store.